All right, it's time to start getting this wiring situated. Plan is to put the ECU black in the stock engine control, transmission control area. Get to that later. So all my wires, again, this is my injector and coil harness. That's just kind of over there right now. Disregard that. I got everything kind of ran over here. I went ahead and wired in a boost control solenoid. I don't have it yet, but I know I'm gonna get one. So, and it's gonna mount somewhere here. So I already got that connected with a Deutsch connector. The fan as well, Deutsch connector. Alternator wires already done. Got that ran straight up here, and then I also have a wire coming from the alternator running around the back to the starter. So all that should be good. The signal and the signal, the ignition, and then the light for the alternator, I ran those around the back of the engine just to kind of try to get them away from the crank signal here, and then the cam signal. So all that's ran around the front. VVTI, got my coolant, the 2 NOx sensors, my oil pressure and temp sensor, my drive-by-wire throttle body, intake air temp sensor. The wideband sensor is here, so that was the wideband here coming around. This is the trans. So those have the vehicle speed, reverse light, and the reverse solenoid lockout. And then this is the alternator plugs that ran around the back. So all that right now is collectively, fuel pressure regulator, the sensor for that, fuel pressure sensor, all that's collectively kind of ran here. This is my flex fuel sensor. All that's coming up here, and it'll collectively run over here. So this is the box where all the initial, this is the DME, which is basically the engine computer, trans computer. The plan is to take the trans computer out, since, again, I'm not using the trans. I know most people do the swap anyway with the, if they keep the stock stuff and they do the, a manual to auto, or auto to manual swap with the normal stuff, they leave the trans unplugged anyway. So essentially, I'll be doing the same thing. That should work. Hopefully that works. And as far as fusing and relays go for the coils and the injectors, I'm gonna try to use the stock relays and fuses. I know these fuses, one of the injector fuses is here. These actually are the ignition. This stripe on here with the yellow stripes is the actual power for the injectors for the stock engine. So I'm planning to tap into that and use this for the stock stuff. And then we'll see how that works. I'm not sure if the computer's gonna need to see like RPM or anything like that for it to continue to spark. It shouldn't, because I would think when you try to crank the engine, it's not running yet, so it's gonna know to have to spark. So hopefully that works out. That way I can kind of use the stock system, because I'm gonna use the stock key and all that. But I'm gonna get the trans computer out. I'm gonna leave the DME and the engine computer. I know like a clutch switch runs through there. I know that is for cruise control, so I'm not using this. I don't think I actually need it. But there's also the actual alternator plug that came with the car, the stock alternator plug. The dash light one, I believe, which is this blue cable, actually runs to the DME, which is this the DME plug. It runs into this, so I may need that. So I'm gonna leave as much plugged in as I can as far as that goes. But like all of this stuff here is like the stock harnesses for the old computer, so I don't need any of that. But we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff out. This is gonna be a little bit of a learning experience as I go along, and then I'm also gonna make sure that the engine starts over. So I know with the E46, there's an EWS, which is basically like the security system kind of for starting a car. It's basically like the ignition. It reads the key, all the tumbler, all that stuff. But the start actually runs through there, so the starter control. So it has to actually see the key, There's also a clutch switch if you're gonna use a manual that you can wire through there. You can bypass that, so I'm probably gonna temporarily bypass that right quick and key on, because I want to actually make sure I have the correct wire for the starter. So where is it at? It is one of these. Oh, These two are what came out the stock starter. So this is the big terminal that went to the solenoid, but it also had this smaller terminal. I'm not sure. I don't think I need this smaller one because this smaller one actually runs again to the DME, which is another reason I was like, I'll just keep it, I guess. But I'm gonna try to bypass that DME, that EWS, excuse me, inside or at quick, and see if that'll actually power the starter. So I'll try to click it really quick just to see if it's gonna turn that over. At least that way I know I have the right wire and I can go ahead and plug that in. So outside of that, I'm gonna do the EWS thing first and go from there. All right, EWS is inside the car. I did get my drive-by-wire pedal and all that wired up as well. This is my trigger for the other fuel pump, but we'll get to all that later. I need to run that up as well. EWS is this white box up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect, or I'm gonna unscrew it so I can kind of get it to hang down and get better access to it, but it's under the dash. Here, EWS. And I don't know if you can, trying to get you to see it better, but there's two wires here, a black one and a black and blue. The black and blue actually comes directly from the ignition. So here's my ignition switch. This black and blue pretty much is the power that comes from the ignition. And then it runs through it runs through the EWS. And then basically after you try to start the EWS, gets all the signals it needs, it runs out through this black wire here to power the starter. So the thicker one. I already kind of stripped it to put something on it to connect to the actual starter. So in theory, what they say is you can jumper those two, and then if you jumper those two, you can basically bypass the EWS. Obviously, if the EWS doesn't see the key from the tumbler and all the right stuff it's supposed to see, yes, the starter will engage, but the car won't start. But again, I'm not using the stock computer, so it doesn't matter. And plus, I have the correct key and all that. So, but I just want to make sure that I only need that one cable. So I'm gonna bypass that right quick, and then I'm gonna actually try to start it and or get a starter to engage and see what happens. All right, so got that bypassed. Battery's on, so I'm gonna see if I got the cable right. So ideally, I should hear it click. Nothing else connected. Fuel pump, all that's still disconnected. So I'm gonna power on. Obviously, I don't hear anything because nothing there. So I'm gonna see if this kicks over. Bet. Yes, sir.
Alright, so now that I figured out that the starter's gonna work, clutch switch is in, you actually have to push the clutch to engage the starter now. It works kind of like stock. I started focusing on this computer area, and this is where I'm gonna put ECU Master Black. I'm gonna end up putting it where the trans computer was. I was gonna take the DME out too, until I realized through some wires, some testing and shooting wires later, that I actually need the DME in there. So some of the fuses and stuff won't even work or get power without that, so I ended up leaving it. I think I kind of discussed this later, but for the most part, all that's good. Got my wires ran from my fuel pump, just wire that straight to the ignition switch for now. And I'm pretty much just trying to figure out what fuses do what here. I'm trying to get this box ready for the ECU Master Black. Everything else should be pretty much connected, and we're good to go.
All right, so since I decided to go drive-by-wire, took the stock pedal out. It just pretty much slides down on this bracket, kind of keeps it locked in. I'll show you this one. You can see it has like clips, these clips right here and here. You see it here a little better on this side, how it would catch under and lock under here. But basically the stock pedal had something similar to that. And of course they had the linkage that ran through here with the arm to pull the cable. I removed all that now. with the drive-by-wire, this is the adapter you have to get to pretty much mount the drive-by-wire pedal setup. So I got that. Again, this will just slide down here, and then this put here, and then I'll just have a bolt that I'll slide through there to make that work. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna vacuum some of this out first, try to clean up under here a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and mount this up. All right, here's the actual pedal assembly I got. As you see here, this bottom part, this will slide into the bracket, and then this little hook right here, this will kind of slide in and lock into that plastic bracket I just had mounted. Potentiometers are inside here, and then have a pigtail as well. So again, I gotta kind of wire this up. But other than that, once I do this, should be pretty good to go. Right, so this is literally how this will go. Again, bottom part of this bracket is gonna connect and slide into 2 tabs here, and then it's this tab here. It's gonna hook, and it would click onto this portion here. So to get behind here and click here. Pretty simple install. Just line it up, and then you literally just slide it over. I'm not gonna slide it all the way over just yet, because the cable is right here to connect it, and I do think that would be quite a tight fit. So I'm gonna just leave it here for now until I get the wiring all connected and wired up. That way I can kind of test this out first, and then after it tests good, then I can go ahead and slide over and click it and be good to go. All right, quick little update. So I know you guys saw me figure out the EWS. Remember how I jumpered those wires? You can kind of see right there those wires with those, that black one with the, looks like that's wax string around it. And then that black and blue one next to it. Those are the two that I jumpered together. That's the ignition and then the starter motor. And I just did that until I got my clutch switch. So I got the clutch switch in. Got the clutch switch wired. I just got it jumpered to the brake right now, so the brake will give it power and ground. And then it has a wire that goes to the, where is it at? Oh, it's hidden behind that, to the EWS, which is where I jumped the other 2 wires, but it has a designated spot, pin 8. And that's pretty much like a clutch. It's almost like a trigger to let power go between those, that ignition and the starter motor. So now when I clutch in and turn the ignition, you'll hear, cool. So that's that. So now I don't have to worry about accidentally somebody starting the car and, you know, it's not in gear. Again, nobody else should really be driving it anyway, but again, that's just something I was trying to avoid. So that's done and good to go. I was just kind of clean up this stuff. Whoever the previous owner had these speaker wires and all that stuff, but I'm gonna clean all this up and keep pressing from there, from here rather.
All right, and then moving right along, I'm just kind of got the EMU Black mounted up in the, I guess this is just, I'm gonna just call this a carrier. I don't know what this is, but this is what they had to, again, engine control and trans control in. I put it in the place of the trans control. And then again, I'm just going through here, kind of using multimeter, testing out wires, trying to figure out what's switch power, what's constant, where my grounds are, what's activating when what. So getting it all figured out and getting it mounted back in there. It's in a good spot where I want it. And then again, just doing my little research, trying to figure out what's what, so I can go ahead and start getting power set up to this thing.
All right. Went ahead, continue with the wiring. Again, I got everything now separated and labeled. For instance, this is my drive-by-wire throttle. I got each cable labeled to what pin it should go to. So B is the black connector, pin 26. G is the gray, pin 2. So I got all of that done for everything. Again, I already had it, you guys saw I already had it running on my stand, so I already knew where the pins went. So before I disconnected it, then I actually went ahead and labeled them so I wouldn't have to like try to refigure it out. So that was already done. What I'm figuring out now is what needs switched 12-volt power. So everything is over here needs switched 12 volts. So that means I have flex fuel sensor, boost solenoid. What else did I have? My trans Speed sensor for the trans. What else? The wideband needs flex. VVTi solenoid. What else? I said flex fuel, boost control. Yeah, so it's a couple things. All that's over here. And then again, the plan again is I'm gonna have all the cables kind of should all be routed up neatly right around here. Pretty neatly right down here. That's the plan, kind of routed. Then I'm gonna put some sheath over it, make it all one little loom until it comes out here in the box, and then it'll probably be more of a mess of wires there. It'll look kind of like the stock did with like how the stock system just has this wires poking out. So it'll probably be like that, but should be loomed up into there. So at least the engine bay will look decently nice, and then this cover will be over there, so you shouldn't be able to see any of that. I already got the switch stuff set up that I needed. This was for something that I don't remember now. Injectors, or excuse me, coils, injectors. Those are the only two things I'm gonna run on a different switch source. And then everything else, I'm gonna probably just jumper to this switch source because this stuff shouldn't take too much power. And then there's one other option in there I can use for a switched. And then I just have to tap in for constant 12 volt because I need to get that to the ECU. And then a switch source, obviously, from the ECU, for the ECU as well to turn on. So outside of that, should be good to go. And we're gonna press from there.
Alright, since I already had the labels, like I said, this part was kind of easy. This is just me organizing. I had to get all my wires together so I can get this loom over it. So I did that, got that stuff covered, heat shrink where I needed it to be. And then from there I just go into pretty much starting to pin all my the connectors, the gray and the black connector for the EMU black, getting everything where it needs to be at. Making sure I'm actually writing down what I pinned where to as well, so I can remember. And then yeah, that was pretty much it. Keep going.
All right, here you have it. A little dusty, a little dirty. Obviously, fan's not on. Switch it up to the fan. Here's my boost control. Everything's set up pretty much how I want it. Wires are actually tucked away pretty decently. All you see really is the coil pack, the injectors. Again, I may have to figure something out for that routing of that water hose there, because it's gonna come out there and then route to the one I have blocked off right here. I honestly don't know if it needs to be routed because the water still travels through here. But I think routing it through that way will get a more even distribution. I think that's gonna get water to the back, so I do need to order a hose for that. But for the time being, I'm not gonna put water in anything yet anyway. I just make sure everything still works. Make sure I remember how to even start. I gotta configure the ECU and all that stuff again. It should be saved, but there's a couple things I had to change, so I'm gonna go through that. Put the setup right now. All wires are kind of tucked under. Got this one bundle here, and that one bundle snakes over to the stock box. It's a mess under there, but with the lid on, I mean, you can't even really tell. Looks damn near stock. You know, not much to tell. So next, I gotta go ahead and try to power on the stuff, make sure the actual ECU is gonna work. Figure out what I wired up wrong. So I'll probably go through that later. Take me a little break right now, but grab a beer. Got that wired up, man. I'm pretty excited about it. It's decently clean in the bed. So I'm good with that. I'm gonna take the cover back off. I'm not even gonna be, I didn't organize this. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. I actually show you guys how terrible it looks under here, wire wise. I don't even have it all the way on here, but it does fit. I can actually put the lid on. But I just did that basically to show you guys how it's gonna look, but I'm gonna go through and tidy up everything. Yeah, man, that's pretty much about it. Like, ideally, my wires I use are way too big. I should've, next time I do this, I'll get Tepso wire. And then a lot of stuff I use, like, 18 gauge when I didn't really need to use 18 gauge and stuff like that. So that was something I had to learn. And when I started, I was like, I wanted to be able to handle that, but that kind of wire is too thick. So Tepso just would have been nice and neat. Even like look at the wires on the stock ECU for the BMW, like how thin those wires are compared to what I have. So I definitely went too big, but that just means it should be able to handle any kind of power I throw there. I shouldn't have any shortage issues, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, I'm gonna go from there.
All right, so this is just the ECU Master, the client software. Pretty simple to use. You got all your options on the left side. Your sensor setup, wideband, boost control, flex fuel, engine parameters you want to set for safeties. All those things it's easy to navigate. You literally click it, drop down menu, you open what you need. And you just go through and set it up. You got your tables that'll pop up. Um, you have a log file here. That's what's on the right side in the background. So you can log while you're running. And see if you have any issues. So it's pretty simple software. I'm not gonna go in depth with how to set it up and all. I just pretty much use the same setup I had when I had it running on the stand and just change what I needed. Obviously, um, I didn't have the drive-by-wire then, so I set that up. And a few other things. I just pretty much got all that set up, and then the calibration for the drive-by-wire as well. That's all was pretty simple to do and set up, and then we're ready to try to get it started. This is me running the drive-by-wire calibration. Once you have everything set up, you got your pinouts right. I've already done I did a TPS calibration on it, which is literally just has you kind of see what the voltage is with the pedal not pressed, and you push it all the way down, see what the voltage is. You put those ranges down on the scale, and it kind of interpolates from there. And then set up this drive-by-wire for the throttle body, and it just pretty much puts it through a series of openings and closings, and I guess it's reading different values and different resistances and all that stuff. I don't know. It's in the software. It does it all on its own. It's pretty easy. I think it took about 2-3 minutes, so I'll probably speed through that portion. But and then once I got it set up, I was able to test it, and it worked flawlessly. And it's that time, the moment we've all been waiting for. But before I do that, got the software hooked up. EMU Black's gotten power. Obviously, as we saw, we got the calibrations. All that stuff's good. Everything's connected. I wanted to verify that I actually had, good oil pressure. So the coils are unplugged, the injectors are unplugged, and then I'm just gonna turn it over a few times and just check to make sure I had oil pressure building up. Just turn it over on the starter, and if all that worked out, which it did, you'll see what progresses on here after that, and our eventual first start. Alright, so all that checked out. I just looked over a few things. Um, Again, I just kind of have the same base setup I had for when I started on the stand, but again, I have some differences now. But main thing, we got oil pressure, that's good to go. I already checked the fuel system, like I said, that's good to go. So fuel pressure is set. I actually decided to go ahead and actually put the accessory belt back on, just because I wanted to actually get the power from the alternator, because I wanted to check that as well, make sure that was connected properly. And I didn't want it to be running it just on battery, so went ahead and set that back up. And then this officially our first start attempt and first start. Hey, maybe a bit anticlimactic, but it starts. Went ahead and went back into software, adjusted a few things. Um, Tried to see if I can get it to start and run a little bit better, and I gave it another attempt. A bit more tinkering. Each time I'm kind of getting some data, got the logs going, so I'm kind of seeing what's happening. So changed some fuel settings for start and the idle, and then gave it one more try. And I lied. I wanted to tweak it a little bit more. It's hard once you kind of get it running. You kind of want to keep hearing it run. So I made one last change and then started it one more time. So everything's running well. Got oil pressure. Got the alternators working. The noise you're hearing, that's the VUTI cam. I gotta adjust some stuff in there later with the pressures there to kind of quiet down that gear, but that's just a common thing. Outside of that, man, everything seems to be running pretty straight. Obviously, it's not tuned because I don't know what I'm doing on that. I'll find somebody for that, but it's running now. So I kind of ran it here and there a few more times after this. Obviously, keeping an eye on the temp, but Yeah, it was good to go, man. Even try to get y'all a quick tail shot from the exhaust. This thing's way too quiet, so I'll address that later. But it runs, it starts. So here's another angle, another start from a different view.